Harish Patel is the winner of the Treasurer's Office Award for Community Service. He's a Director of Economic Security for Illinois, and previously, Harish was the Deputy Director of New America Chicago, a nonpartisan policy innovation lab, Violence Prevention Coalition organizer on Chicago's Southwest Side, and social innovator for Accelerate Change, where they help social change organizations build financially sustainable membership benefits. Harish also was a co-owner of a fair trade clothing line, IshiVest, and co-founded Chicago Votes, a nonprofit organization that has played a critical role in the passage of a few landmark voting rights laws in recent years in Illinois. Harish holds a master's degree in urban planning and policy from the University of Illinois at Chicago, and he's been a fellow at Green for All, New Leaders Council, Imagining America's Publicly Active Graduate Education, and South Asian American Policy and Research Institute, and also UIC Social Justice Initiative. Harish is a proud immigrant who moved to Illinois from Gujarat, India at 14 and now lives on Chicago's Northwest Side. He's obsessed with his plants and stays caffeinated by drinking mochas. So Harish, congratulations and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Treasurer, for choosing me and also for inviting me to talk with you.
Now, you have done a variety of things, involved a variety of organizations, but a lot of them deal with politics or policy. So how did you develop an interest in political science, and what motivated you to turn to a degree in urban planning?
Yeah, you already sort of shared a little bit about how all the different aspects of my education, I think it all started when we arrived to this country. You already shared that I came to this country right when I was about to start high school. I came here with my mother and my sister after my father had passed away in Gujarat, India, and it made sense for my mom at the time to be closer to her family. That's what brought us here. And when we arrived, like many immigrants, we needed support. And yes, there was family. There were our community of people in Chicago. They're able to step up and help us get to know this new country, new city, new school system for me at the time. But also there was the government. The government had programs that we were introduced to, things like food stamps. My sister had a child and she was able to use a program called WIC. At the time, I didn't know these acronyms. I didn't know these services existed, but I remember that this sort of thing called the government is helping us and helping my family slowly start a life in the United States. When I went to school, I learned how to speak English. I was back in the day, it was called ESL, English as a Second Language. I think now it's called English Language Learner. And there were a lot of people who helped us understand how a library system works. How do you get a book from a library so I can learn how to read better? There were counselors who sort of really helped me understand how a new college system will work. So all these people, I was not paying them, right? They were all just invested in my life. They were invested in my sister's life. They were invested in my mother's life and trying to get us a good footing. Fast forward, I go to college because my family really wanted me to be a doctor. My last name is Patel. Anybody who is listening, who is an immigrant or last name Patel will understand this. There was a lot of pressure for me to be a doctor. But as I saw and as I learned more about policy and budgets, I was able to put my experience of being an immigrant to this country and seeing the need that there are other immigrants coming to this country who need help. There are other neighbors in my city who need support. Is sort of what made me slowly transition from the desire to be a doctor to understand politics. And that's so I ended up with an undergraduate degree in philosophy and political science. The master's in public policy and urban planning came a few years later. I got a job, and at that first job on the Southwest Side, what I learned is that I still had a hard time understanding budgets and Excel sheets and how the policy making process actually works. I knew what the world should look like. I knew I had this vision about how things should be, but I didn't know how to get there in many ways. And that's where I went back to the University of Illinois Chicago and got an urban planning and policy degree, where I did get to have access to understanding how policies are made.
So your mother didn't encourage you to be a social justice entrepreneur?
She did not, and I would say most of my family would probably also agree with my mother. I mean, look, you know, my mother probably needed, as somebody who is a new immigrant who doesn't have a lot of resources, she wanted to make sure that I have a job that's steady and I have a job that pays well, right? And nonprofit community service sometimes could be hard. It's a hard path. It's not for everyone. But for me, I really believe that this has brought me a lot of happiness and purpose. Like there's no other way I could live my life.
I completely understand. We all need to feed our bellies with food, but we also need to feed our souls. And I find this work. When I read through your bio, social justice entrepreneur makes sense to me as a description there. But can you explain a little more to our listeners what a social entrepreneur is and how you've been able to fill the role within your community?
Yeah, I mean, for me, what that means to be a social entrepreneur is to match the existing system as is and trying to have a vision that's a little bit better. So for me, there are people who come to us. Some of them are in government, some of them are in business, some of them are in academics. All of these folks who want to make a change have different paths. For me, I didn't want to be stuck in one path. I didn't think that only academia is the way to make a better world. I didn't think that only business is the way to make a better world, or nonprofit, or being an elected official. There are many ways and many paths towards trying to change this world, this country, this state, this city for better. And so, and also, I'm sure it meets my ADHD requirement that I wanted to do a few different things before I settled on one. So I had a business, as you mentioned. I started, co-founded Chicago Votes, which is an organization that cares about voter rights. I've worked on many other campaigns, and both in community and issue-based campaigns. And now what I do is mostly around economic justice, because all of my past 15 years of work and school led me to really have a good understanding that many of these issues that I care about are connected to poverty. And I really think that if we can reduce poverty and change that and let people have their own paths of making, like I did, that I think the world will be better, and I think people will be happier.
Well, I completely agree with you. I thought you had a great answer, and that's what these awards attempt to showcase. That some people feel like, or their parents tell them, this is the pathway to success. If you want to make a change, you have to be an elected official. You have to be in academia, and we highlight people of success in a variety of areas. But I'm interested. You mentioned justice. How can programs like the Social Justice Initiative at UIC inspire and educate future leaders in our communities?
Yeah, for me, a mentor of mine, Dr. Barbara Ransby, who's at the university, had this vision of starting a social justice initiative where people can learn and have access to education, but also get to meet the real needs of their community. And that's what the Social Justice Initiative at UIC was trying to do: is have real people with real experiences who are trying to fix real problems in their block, in their neighborhood. Allow them to learn skills to go back and do that. And I think it is really important to sort of show that so some of this leadership is just not biological, right? People can actually learn how to be leaders. People can actually learn how to fix problems that their neighbors are talking about. People can learn and educate and get a degree while doing that. And I think a lot of us, when you're in high school, when you're younger, you don't realize that there's just so many amazing paths out there for you, and that you should experiment with few. You should bring real life problems to your education, try to learn how to fix them. And that, for me, how to learn and how to fix these problems was really magical, and keeps me even now. Like the curiosity now I have is like, I want to try to fix real problems. And in that, of course, you have to read. Of course, you have to write. Of course, you have to communicate. But it is so much more exciting when you see fruit of your labor in real life with your neighbor, having a better day. You're neighbor's kid having a better childcare. Those things are super exciting.
Yeah, and there's more than just one path out there. Even within your career, if you and looking at the things you have done, you have started, different things you've been involved with, I can see the draw for someone with ADHD because, or what I would say, someone who's just very curious and seeking purpose. Don't be afraid to try something new. So if someone out there who is super curious, is always looking for something new, or someone who just wants to make a real big impact in their community. As we wrap up, what words of wisdom would you have for those people looking to follow in your footsteps, people who want to serve their community and really bring about social change?
I wouldn't say I'm wise enough to provide wisdom, treasurer, but I will say that my experience has been that people should start with tangible things they want to change. So if they want to get involved, they really should think about, not everybody has to run for president and be the president to make change. And for me, that's really important. You can do that at a school level, at a park level, at a library level. We need public servants on all different local communities. And I think we actually lack that passion. I think it's really exciting to run for local office. I think it's exciting to support your people who want to do a cleanup day at their park. I think it's amazing if you want to be on the local school council as a mother who's raising kids, right? That's the kind of people I would want to see in public service. And for me, I have seen the most impactful people, the most passionate people, people who really actually end up making change are the ones who are impacted the most by the problem. And so I invite all of the people who are listening, if you see a problem, let's try to figure out a way creatively to fix it. And I would love to support whoever is leading any problem solving in our state.
Great. Well, Harish, you have been an example, maybe not in so many years, but you have several more years of serving your community. If others want to be in touch with you to either get advice or help out, I assume you are open. And that's why you received the Treasurer's Office Award for Outstanding Commitment in Community Service. So thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Treasurer, for this opportunity and for this wonderful conversation.